Okay, so when we look through the notes you shared about wellness, our minds often jump straight to the usuals: sleep, hydration, skincare, getting movement in.
Hmm. The standard checklist.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But what if I told you there's this silent disruptor, something your research really highlighted, that connects all of those? It's a major player behind things like, stubborn acne, that fatigue you just can't shake, even accelerated aging you asked about.
Yeah.
We're talking about inflammation.
Okay, let's unpack this from your material.
Yeah, and what's fascinating here, and your sources really brought this out, is that inflammation itself isn't like the enemy. It's actually a really smart immune response.
Hmm.
Think healing a cut,
Yeah.
fighting a virus.
Right, the short-term stuff. Yeah.
Helpful, incredibly helpful, yes.
Yeah.
Acute inflammation. The issue, as your research pointed out again and again, is when it just hangs around,
Yes.
lingers.
Ah.
That's the chronic low-grade inflammation.
Hmm.
And that can be the silent disruptor because it prevents your skin, your whole body really, from working optimally. It's constantly taxing your systems.
Hmm.
And what triggers that chronic state? The notes mentioned a few things.
Yeah. Common culprits that came up were ongoing stress, a diet that's maybe consistently poor, exposure to environmental toxins building up, or just not getting enough good quality sleep night after night.
That distinction, acute versus chronic, feels so key to understanding why maybe we feel off sometimes without knowing why.
Absolutely fundamental.
So, okay, our mission for this deep dive. Let's explore the profound, sometimes hidden impact of this chronic inflammation, and maybe more importantly, dive into the simple, intentional lifestyle shifts your sources suggest can really bring it down.
Yeah, practical steps.
Consider this your sort of beauty and body guide, your blueprint for calming inflammation from the inside out, unlocking not just radiant skin, but better mood, more energy, that overall vitality.
Hmm.
Okay, so we've got the difference: helpful, acute, problematic, chronic, low grade. Now, what does this chronic state actually look like day to day? How does it show up based on the studies you shared?
Oh, it shows up in so many ways, and often we don't connect the dots back to inflammation.
Yeah.
Skin-wise, your sources mention things like persistent acne, rosacea, eczema flare-ups, maybe just general puffiness that won't go down,
Yeah.
or a dullness, like your skin lacks that glow.
Right, that lack of vibrancy.
Exactly. And internally, it could be that frustrating brain fog, or just
Yeah.
feeling constantly low on energy, even if you think you slept okay.
Mhm.
It's often tangled up with digestive issues, hormonal imbalances too, and one that surprised some people in the research, you flagged faster aging.
How does that work?
Well, chronic inflammation contributes directly to breaking down collagen and elastin, the stuff that keeps skin firm and bouncy. So it
Mm.
literally erodes the skin's structure over time.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So all these things that seem separate the skin, the fog, the digestion, the aging your material really emphasize they're often interconnected symptoms pointing back to that same underlying inflammatory state.
That's such a critical connection. Okay, but the good news, the powerful part, is that your sources laid out really actionable steps. So let's unpack those.
Yeah.
7 simple but effective anti-inflammatory strategies. Sound good?
Let's do it.
All right, first up, the plate. Food as medicine. Your articles really hammered this home.
They absolutely did. What you eat directly impacts those inflammatory pathways. To really make a dent, your sources consistently highlighted focusing on nutrient-dense foods. Think vibrant leafy greens, spinach, kale,
I
arugula.
got it. Antioxidant.
Exactly. And deep-colored berries, blueberries, raspberries, strawberries, packed with anthocyanins. Prioritize omega-3s, salmon, flaxseed, walnuts, chia seeds. They're vital for calming inflammation at the cellular level.
Mhm.
And don't forget spices. Your notes had great stuff on turmeric, ginger, cinnamon. Their active compounds are powerful. Healthy fats too, avocado, olive oil. And fermented foods are key.
Like kimchi.
Yes, kimchi, kefir, sauerkraut. They directly support gut health, which, as we'll get into, is huge for inflammation.
Okay. And on the flip side, what did the research suggest limiting or, maybe avoiding altogether?
Yeah, good question. To see real change, the consensus was definitely limit refined sugars, processed snacks, fried foods. Those often have inflammatory oils.
Okay.
Dairy came up too, with the caveat if you're sensitive. Some studies showed it can trigger inflammation for certain people.
Right. It's individual.
It seems to be. And yeah, definitely cut back on alcohol and sugary drinks. The beauty bonus here, as your sources called it, is pretty cool. These changes feed your good gut bacteria, which helps regulate skin oil, meaning fewer breakouts, less redness, clearer skin.
Nice. Okay. Beyond diet. Sleep. You mentioned it as a trigger, but let's talk about getting serious about it.
Yeah.
Why is sleep so crucial in this fight against inflammation based on those studies?
Well, your body isn't just off when you sleep, it's doing major repair work. The studies you looked at show that during deep sleep, your body actually produces anti-inflammatory compounds, cytokines, and regulates those inflammatory markers.
Oh, okay.
And here's the kicker. Chronic lack of sleep ramps up cortisol. That's your main stress hormone.
Right.
And sustained high cortisol, as the research showed, it kind of messes with your immune system, suppressing some good responses, amplifying others, leading straight to a pro-inflammatory state. In your skin, everywhere.
So practically then, for those of us maybe struggling,
Yeah.
what specific actionable things did the research suggest? How can we leverage sleep better?
The common threads we're aiming for, 7 to 9 hours of quality sleep, making sure the room is cool and really dark, and critically ditching screens at least an hour before bed. That blue light messes with melatonin.
Important.
Yeah. And maybe adding some calming rituals like herbal tea, maybe some light journaling, things that signal wind down time.
Makes sense. Okay, so we've fueled the body, rested the body, now movement. Your sources highlighted this too, but maybe not in the way we always think, right? Not just intense workouts.
Exactly. It's not necessarily about beast mode all the time. Your research pointed more towards consistency and the type of movement. Regular, gentle movement helps flush out inflammatory toxins. It boosts circulation, bringing good stuff in, taking waste out. And it actively reduces inflammatory markers like C-reactive protein, CRP. That's a key blood marker for inflammation.
So it helps clear things out.
Precisely. It moves your lymphatic system, your body's kind of internal drainage network.
So we're thinking things like walking, maybe light hiking, yoga, Pilates, low impact strength.
Perfect examples. The key theme in your notes was consistency over intensity. Make it a sustainable habit you actually enjoy.
Right. Okay, now for a big one. Stress. We all feel it. It seems obvious. But why does chronic stress hit our physical well-being, especially our skin, so hard, according to those articles?
Because chronic stress means your body is constantly pumping out cortisol and other stress hormones. And that sustained high cortisol directly fuels inflammation,
Wow.
which, as your sources explained, can then trigger hormonal imbalances, leading to those lovely, persistent breakouts. Your skin is like a super sensitive mirror to your internal stress. It reacts quickly.
Yeah, I read that study you included about how stress actually weakens the skin barrier.
Exactly. It impairs the barrier function, making your skin more vulnerable to irritants, bacteria, and, more inflammation.
It's like our skin is telling us what our mind is ignoring.
Yeah.
So, knowing that, what simple stress busters did the sources recommend? Things we can actually do.
The recommendations were refreshingly simple, actually. Try meditating, even 5 or 10 minutes a day, just focusing on your breath counts.
Okay.
Maybe experiment with breathwork exercises or techniques like EFT tapping. They can shift your nervous system pretty quickly. And just take breaks. Step outside, get some fresh air, some sunlight. Natural light helps regulate stress hormones too.
And the bonus here, as your sources highlighted, is that managing stress doesn't just help skin. It improves digestion, sleep. It's all connected back to that inflammation loop.
It really is. That synergy is powerful.
Okay, moving on. Our environment. Toxins. Maybe not top of mind daily, but
Yeah.
your research touched on this. How can we reduce our exposure?
Well, think about your liver. It's your main detox organ, working nonstop to process everything, stuff in the air, chemicals and processed foods, artificial fragrances and products.
Right, it's got a big job.
A huge job. And as your sources explain, when it gets overloaded, the body can shift into an inflammatory state because it's constantly trying to deal with these irritants. That overload can also just slow everything down, dulling that natural glow.
So, simple steps. What can we do?
Little things add up, like choosing cleaner skincare and beauty products. Look for fragrance-free, non-toxic options. Drinking filtered water is a good idea. And trying to reduce plastic use, especially heating food in plastic. Microplastics are a concern.
Good points.
Yeah.
Okay, speaking of things working hard.
Yeah.
The gut, often called the second brain. Your materials definitely put a spotlight on its role in inflammation.
Oh, absolutely central, because something like 70% of your entire immune system actually lives in your gut.
70%.
Right.
Wow.
Yeah. It's in constant communication with your gut microbiome, all those trillions of bacteria. And as your sources detailed, when that microbiome is out of balance dysbiosis, it can lead to what's called leaky gut.
Right, I've heard that term.
It means the gut lining becomes more permeable, allowing inflammatory molecules to basically leak into your bloodstream. And that inflammation can then show up anywhere: skin, mood, digestion. It's all connected through that gut-skin axis, gut-brain axis.
Okay, so to support gut health and cut down inflammation, what did the sources advise?
Focus on fiber. Lots of different vegetables, legumes, seeds. They feed the good gut bacteria. Consider probiotics from fermented foods we mentioned, or maybe a supplement. And prebiotics, too. Those are the fibers that feed the probiotics.
Got it. Feed the good guys.
Exactly. And, limit antibiotics unless they're really medically necessary because they can wipe out good bacteria along with the bad. The skin connection here is just undeniable. So many inflammatory skin issues like acne or eczema are directly linked to gut health imbalances. Your articles were really clear on that.
Definitely a key takeaway. Okay, finally, number 7, the absolute foundation, hydration. Why is hydrating like you mean it so critical for inflammation based on your research?
Because water literally helps flush inflammatory toxins and waste products out of your system. Simple as that.
Okay.
It supports every single cellular process, transporting nutrients, getting rid of waste. That includes things like making collagen, turning over skin cells, absorbing nutrients efficiently. Your sources also pointed out that even mild dehydration can trigger a stress response.
Bringing us back to cortisol again.
Exactly, which promotes inflammation. If you're not hydrated enough, everything just kind of slows down, gets sluggish, gets stuck.
Right. So practical target, what did they suggest?
Aim for at least half your body weight in ounces of water per day. That's a good starting point.
Right.
Maybe add lemon, cucumber, mint for a little extra detox support and flavor. And don't forget herbal teas. Things like chamomile, turmeric tea. They hydrate and have their own anti-inflammatory perks.
Great tips. Okay, deep breath. We covered a lot. So what does this all mean? We've really unpacked the hidden side of inflammation and laid out these practical daily strategies for the material you provided. I think the key takeaway is inflammation itself isn't the bad guy.
Right, not at all. Acute inflammation is essential. It's the healing response.
Right. But it's the chronic, unbalanced inflammation, which your sources showed is just so common today. Unfortunately, that's the challenge we need to tackle.
And if we connect this to the bigger picture, the solution isn't about, crazy extremes or diets you can't stick to.
Right.
As your research really showed, it's about creating these daily habits, making small, consistent shifts in lifestyle that gently, steadily guide your body and skin back towards balance. And when you commit to lowering inflammation with these kinds of intentional actions, you're not just like spot treating symptoms, you're fundamentally building a more radiant, more vibrant, and definitely more resilient you from the inside out.
Absolutely. Building that resilience. I love that. And that brings us right to our final thought for you listening. Given everything we've unpacked today from these comprehensive materials, what's one small, consistent habit you will start implementing this week to bring your body and skin back into that beautiful balance?